Hello and good evening students and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. So today we have another fortnightly session for Science and Technology and Environment and Ecology. So here are the topics that will be covered over here. So in Environment and Ecology, we have the World Meteorological Organization's report, Global Sea Level Rise and its Implications. Then we have Pangolin Trafficking, Doomsday, Glacier and the ITGC. Then we have climate change and food security related topic. Then we come to the science and technology topics where we'll be covering three very important topics again. We have food fortification, MPoxx, which was previously known as monkeypox, and the Quasi Crystals. So let us start with the environment topics first. Our first topic is global sea level rise and its implications. So the World Meteorological Organization, it has released a report, Global Sea Level Rise and its Implications, Key Facts and Figures, where it has given us a data as to depending upon how much there will be temperature increase, how much subsequently will be the increase in sea level. So according to the report, there are two problems that are being created due to warming and that are leading to an increase in sea level. One is melting of the glaciers. Now glaciers are melting, water is flowing into the oceans and the level is increasing. And this is also causing ice loss. Now what does ice loss tend to create apart from melting? The albedo. So ice loss, it is decreasing the amount of heat that is reflected back from the earth due to the albedo effect. So that is further increasing the amount of heating in the earth. Secondly, there is also thermal expansion of water. When water, its temperature increases, it expands, right? So 50% of the global sea level rise between 1971 to 2018. It has been caused due to thermal expansion of water, while the rest of the 50% is caused due to the melting of the glaciers. Now the rate of the sea level rise, it has increased over the past many years. Between 1901 to 71, it was just 1.3 mm per year. It increased to 1.9 mm per year between 1971 to 2006. It further increased. It almost doubled to 3.7 mm per year between 2006 to 2018. Moreover, in the past decade, that is between 2013 to 2022, it has further increased to 4.5 mm per year. So you can see that with every passing year, the rate of melting, it is increasing. The rate of sea level rise, it is increasing, and that is driving up the average of the many years. Okay. So according to the report, by the year 2100, the sea level will rise by 2 to 3 meters if the warming is limited to 1 degree centigrade. Now this is not possible. It has already happened, right? And depending upon our Paris Convention determined goals, it is not likely that we'll be able to hold the warming up to 1 degree centigrade. It will be 2 to 6 meter if we want the warming to be limited to 2 degrees Celsius. Now according to the current status of the release of greenhouse gases, it is expected that we'll reach 2 degree by the year 2050 itself. We'll reach 2 degree warming by 2050 itself, okay? Then, if the warming is limited to 5 degrees Celsius, by 2100, the increase will be 19 to 22 meter, which will be extremely devastating for a lot of regions of the world. Now, this will create a lot of risks associated with itself. There will be existential threat to the coastal regions. There will be social, economic, and humanitarian risks involved with increase in sea level rise. So there are multiple threats that will take place. There will be loss of the coastal ecosystems and the various ecosystem services that they provide to us. Then there will be salinization of land and groundwater, which will cause what? Water scarcity, and loss of livelihoods because the land will become saline, it will not be fit for agriculture. There will be damage to infrastructure, to roads, to essential buildings, to the houses, in everything. There will also be worsening of natural calamities. We have already seen that the number of extreme climatic events, they have been increasing over the past years. Now they will further increase if there is sea level rise, because the sea, it will move inland, and more inland areas, they will now be inundated with water. Moreover, according to the report, countries that will be most affected include the low-lying island countries and countries which have high amount of population concentration at the coastal areas. Now, amongst these countries come India, Bangladesh, China, and the Netherlands. So apart from the countries, the island countries, these 4 countries are at the highest risk when it comes to risk associated with sea level rise. Amongst the cities of the world, many major cities like Mumbai, like Shanghai, like London, New York, Bangkok, they will experience submergence of a large part of their land. Now what about India? How will it impact India? So India has a 7,500 kilometer long coastline, okay, including the mainland as well as the islands. Now islands are at a very high risk of getting inundated, especially the Lakshadweep Islands, which are coral islands and whose height or altitude above the sea level is not very much. According to a report by this company called RMSI Private Limited, which published its report on the basis of IPCC 6th assessment report data. Now they took the data RCP 4.5. Now this RCP 4.5 data, it was the data in the case that there is moderate amount of warming. It is not extreme data, not very low amount of warming, not very high amount of warming. It calculates moderate amount of warming. So based on that data, this particular company, it concluded its GIS studies. So according to these studies, they predicted that by the year 2050, many major Indian cities, they will get submerged, or major parts of them, they will get submerged. So what are these cities? We have Mumbai, Bangalore, Kochi, Thiruvananthapuram, Chennai, Visakhapatnam. So they talked about these cities, that these few cities, they will get highly submerged. Also, the Ministry of Earth Sciences, they conducted various studies on the same aspect, and they said that between 1874 to 2004, the sea level in the northern Indian Ocean, which is at a peninsular location, it rose at 1.06 to 1.75 mm. However, between 1993 to 2007, this rise was 3.3 mm per year. So it had already more than doubled. So you can see the impact that sea level rise is, the impact that global warming is having on sea level rise, and eventually the impact that sea level rise will have on India. So just 1 degree change has happened since the Industrial Revolution, okay? So with this 1 degree change, we have already seen so many catastrophic events that are happening. When it comes to India, there has been a 52% rise in the number of extreme cyclones on the western coastal regions. There has been a 3-fold rise in the amount of extreme rain events in the coastal regions. So you can see that India is highly affected by these activities. Moreover, this will also cause many problems related to water insecurity, related to livelihood reduction, livelihood destruction, decline in fish production. How? Because sea level is rising due to melting of ice. Melting of ice is causing increase in fresh water in the ocean, which is reducing the salinity of the ocean. So what is happening? The marine species, they are not able to survive in that kind of water. Moreover, when sea water, it comes inland, The inland water, the inland lakes, the rivers, they will get saline, more saline. So the freshwater species, they won't be able to live over there. So there will be a reduction in fish population as well. And many of the people, they depend upon fisheries for their survival. Apart from that, a very important event that will happen is shrinking of Ganga, Brahmaputra and Indus deltas. So how will that happen? Now once the glaciers, they shrink, the amount of water going into these rivers, it will reduce. Moreover, the sea will come inland and the delta areas, they will get submerged. So there will be a double impact on these regions, and you know that these regions are some of the most densely populated areas in the world, right? So there will be a high impact on the populations living over here. Not just these rivers, even if you know about Mekong River, even the Mekong Delta will experience the same problems. So what is the way forward for all of this? How can we prevent it? So apart from mitigation strategies, we have Paris Convention, we have countries coming together to pledge to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, right? Now, but apart from mitigation, we also need to start adapting. We also need to start adapting, accepting the reality that yes, climate is changing. How can we evolve ourselves? How can we evolve our technologies in order to survive in such amount of changes? Things like land reclamation, building of stronger structures which are resistant to the forces of the sea, building of houses on stilts, infrastructure on stilts, building of stronger roads, inland roads at a higher altitude. All these steps, they can help us in adapting to the changing realities. So that was about the first topic. Now we come to the second one regarding pangolin trafficking. Now, according to a report by Traffic, which is a global NGO, started in the year 1976 with the collaboration of WWF, World Wildlife Fund, and IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. So its full form is not related to traffic, it is Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network. So according to the report by Traffic and WWF India, more than 1200 pangolins have been trafficked in India between the years 2018 to 2022. Now, what are pangolins? Pangolins are nocturnal creatures. Nocturnal means they are active at the night. They are also known as scaly ant eaters. So what does that mean? One of their main food is ants. Now these are toothless. These creatures, they are toothless. They move around on the ground and they suck up ants and termites like a vacuum cleaner does. Okay, so they move around with their mouths on the ground and they suck up their food. They live in underground burrows. They dig up the burrows and they live over there. Now this is a very important fact about pangolins, because the burrows that are created by the pangolins, they are used by more than 30 species of animals, of invertebrates, of insects for their own survival as well. Now in India, there is Indian pangolin. So Indian pangolin, it is widespread all across the country, except in extreme regions like the arid areas of the Western India, Himalayas and Northeast. Then there is another variety of pangolins known as Chinese pangolins. Now Chinese pangolins, they are also found in India in these regions, in Himalayas and in Northeastern India. Okay. So the Indian pangolins, they are endangered, whereas the Chinese pangolins, they are critically endangered. And why is this status? Because pangolins, they are one of the most trafficked wild mammal in the world. They are trafficked mainly within Asia for their meat, which is considered a delicacy, as well as their scales, which are used in many traditional medicinal sciences. Okay, so that is why they are the most trafficked wild animals in the world. Now, what does the report by Traffic and WWF India say? It says that between 2018 to 2022, 1,203 pangolins were poached for trafficking. Within this time, there were multiple seizures that occurred of both live pangolins as well as their scales across 24 states and 1 union territory. Now, among these states and union territories, the maximum number of seizures were done from the state of Odisha. Now, between 2009 and 17, 6,000 pangolins were trafficked. Now, according to the report, this data is very conservative. We are not able to give the actual figures because many of the trafficked animals, they are not even caught. Moreover, the caught amount of scales, they are not a very good indicator of how many pangolins were killed to get those scales. For example, it is considered to get 1 kg of the scales, we have to kill 1 pangolin. However, if it is a smaller pangolin, it is not an adult pangolin, or it is a Chinese pangolin and not an Indian pangolin, then the amount of scale that we get from it is less than 1 kg. So it can be 0.5 kg. So 2 pangolins will be killed to get 1 kg. Okay. So the numbers here, they are very conservative estimates. They are not the actual amount of estimates regarding how many pangolins are trafficked across the country, across our borders. Another very important concern that they pinpointed upon was that there is an increase in online trading of pangolins and their products. Okay, so not just dark web, even the social media sites, they are being used for transfer, for sale and purchase of pangolins. Now, in general, what are the concerns related to wildlife smuggling? The pangolins, you know, they are endangered. Chinese pangolins are critically endangered. So definitely increase in their trafficking, increase in their poaching will lead to reduction in their populations, right? Apart from that, there are 3 very conventional concerns related to wildlife smuggling. That is, we have porous borders with some of our neighbors, from where there can be an easy way out from India to other country and from there to another country for smuggling of the animals and their products. There is a lack of awareness amongst the locals regarding trafficking, regarding not to consume the meat, not to use the materials taken out of those animals. There is improper implementation of the laws. We have a lot of laws for protection of the wild animals, but their implementation is the problem. Then we have 3 very major upcoming concerns related to wildlife trafficking. Use of social media as a marketplace. So social media handles like Facebook, like Instagram and other social media handles, they are also being used for sale and purchase of these animals. Apart from that, definitely we have dark web, where you can find any number of things to buy and sell, any amount of illegal stuff. Then there is an increase in the use of aerial routes for smuggling, the air routes. In fact, India is one among the top 10 countries where the smugglers are using the aerial routes to take away animals. Now in aerial route, what happened? The live animals, it is not very much possible to carry them. So the animals are killed and their products, the derivatives, they are taken out and these products are then smuggled out. So there is a very less chance that we can capture the animal in a living form. Okay, so that is another concern related to aerial smuggling. Moreover, cities like Chennai and Mumbai, they are also amongst the major cities from where the aerial smuggling is taking place. Moreover, the trafficking, wildlife trafficking is the fourth biggest transnational organized crime all across the world. So this data is not given by any simple agency. It is given by Interpol, which is an international agency for tackling organized crimes. Even WWF had reiterated the same fact that this is the fourth biggest transnational organized crimes, and it finances a lot of other non-state or anti-state activities. So what are the various protections that are available in India against any such problems? First, the pangolins, they have the highest amount of protection that can be given to any animal by including them in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of India 1972. Apart from that, we have a dedicated agency, that is Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, that addresses, that investigates, collects intelligence regarding wildlife trafficking and poaching activities. Apart from that, it also has a dedicated cyber cell in order to curb any use of web, any use of social media, any use of dark web for any such activities. Moreover, it has also started the process of profiling the various criminals, profiling the products that are seized, so that it can be pinpointed as to from where these products were taken. Moreover, there is this program, Deterring and Disrupting Wildlife Trafficking in Air Transport Sector in India. So under this program, the air transport personnel, they are trained to detect whether or not trafficking is taking place through the airports. Moreover, various security forces that are present at the porous borders of India, like BSF, like ITBP, like SSB, they are also being trained so that they can also catch the culprits who are taking away, who are smuggling these animals or their products across the border from India. There are also actions by various civil society organizations like Wildlife Trust of India, Wildlife Conservation Society. You just had Traffic, which released this report, WWF India. They are also conducting various activities. They are also helping in training the police personnel, the army personnel regarding how the trafficking can stop. Moreover, there are multiple awareness campaigns that are run by the various CSOs in collaboration with the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. One very good example of this is UNEP and WWCBs. Not all animals migrate by choice. So this is a program run by both these agencies to increase the awareness regarding wildlife trafficking in the country. So internationally, the pangolin trade, it has been banned by CITES. Okay. So what is CITES? It is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Flora and Fauna. So it helps in regulating the global trade in both flora and fauna, that is both plants and animals. It has various schedules, and if any animal is placed in Schedule 1 of CITES, then no international trade in that animal is allowed. Then the Interpol, it is also conducting various operations all across the world to curb the menace of trafficking of wild animals, because it is a transnational crime, because it is a transnational organized crime, then definitely it comes under the purview of Interpol. Then various IEC, that is information, education and communication activities, are being conducted by global civil society organizations in order to increase awareness against these practices. Now we come to the third topic, Doomsday, Glacier and ITGC. So according to a latest report, according to a study by ITGC, International Thwaites Glacier Collaboration, The Doomsday Glacier, it is experiencing unexpected warming and ice loss because of global warming. So this very beautifully connects with our first topic, okay? So pay attention to it. So what is Doomsday Glacier? This glacier is also known as Thwaites Glacier. It is present on the western coast of Antarctica and it flows out into the Amundsen Sea. Okay. So this is one of the most unstable glaciers of Antarctica. So that is why it is very important to have data upon this particular glacier. Now, according to various studies that we have conducted before the Thwaites Glacier collaboration conducted this study, this glacier has retreated more than 14% since the year 2000. In fact, since the year 2000, there has been an increase of more than 30% in the rate of the melting of this particular glacier. Now, why is it called Doomsday Glacier? Now, according to various studies, if this glacier collapses completely, then standalone, just the glacier, it will cause a rise in sea level by 65 centimeter. Moreover, if you see this glacier, behind this glacier are many ice lakes, which are very not stable, okay? They are in a very unstable state. So if the glacier, it melts completely, it is damming these lakes right now. Now, if this dam is removed, these lakes will rapidly start flowing in the ocean too. And this will lead to an increase in 3 meters when it comes to sea level. So this is going to be devastating. We already know because of the WMO report. So that is why it is known as Doomsday Glacier, because the day this glacier completely gets melted, that will be almost like a doomsday for humanity on Earth. Now, what is ITGC? The full form is International Thwaites Glacier Collaboration. Now, it consists of mostly scientists from United States of America and United Kingdom, and they are also being funded by these two countries. Now, they started this collaboration, it started in the year 2018-19 for 5 years to study one of the most unstable glaciers of Antarctica. Now, what is special about this study? They have used an underwater robot, an underwater oceanography robot known as IceFin, to conduct extensive study on this particular glacier, how it is melting from below at oceanic depths. Now, a hole is being drilled into this particular glacier. Now, through this hole, this IceFin, it is dropped below, and then from below, it is studying the glacier. Now, what does the study say? The study was published in the Nature journal, which is one of the most prestigious science journals of the world. Now, according to this study, the rate at which the glacier is melting, it is weaker than it was expected based on the current levels of ocean warming. However, this is not a positive news, because despite lower levels of melting, the retreat of the glacier is fast. Why? Because the rate at which the ice is melting, the ice is not getting rejuvenated. So the incoming ice, the rate of ice incoming, it is less than rate at which the ice is going out. Okay, so that is why there is a retreat of this glacier. The rate of the ice loss is even faster than it was in the past few thousand years. We have already seen that since the year 2000, the rate at which the ice is losing has increased by more than 30%. In fact, since 2000, Thwaites Glacier alone, it is responsible for 50% of ice loss in Antarctica. Okay, so that means that there is a lot of things going on in Thwaites Glacier. Now, the biggest reason for this ice loss is warm and salty ocean currents. How? Because the Thwaites Glacier, it lies below the surface of the ocean up to 1 kilometer depth. Now you know that at the poles, at the polar region, what happens? Compared to the surface, the temperature increases as we go below with the increase in depths. Opposite happens in the equatorial and the tropical regions. The temperature, it reduces with depth. So over here, because temperature is increasing with depth and the bottommost parts of this glacier, they lie at 1 kilometer depth. So what is happening? There is warm oceanic currents. Now the global warming, it has not just led to a warming of the ocean, it has also led to warming of the lower layers, not just the surface but lower layers as well. So these warm currents, they are coming and attacking the glacier from the bottom. So how do we know it? Because of ice fin that studied the bottom of the particular Thwaites Glacier. Now also apart from that, the melting is faster in those areas of the glacier at the bottom which are already under mechanical stress. Now these areas, they are cracks. The cracks or crevices known as basal crevices which are present at the bottom of the glacier. So what is happening? Water is entering these cracks and it is spinning rapidly. So what is happening? These cracks, the size of these cracks, the height of these cracks, it is increasing. So eventually what will happen? It will keep on increasing and the whole area, it will break off. It will break off and move into the ocean. Currently on surface, what is happening? Because of the melting due to warming, the ice is just flowing into the ocean. Now what will happen? Because of these cracks, if these cracks lead to the breakage, the whole block of ice, it will enter the ocean and not just small layers of ice. So that will be very devastating and that is happening actually. And that is why there is a big concern related to this particular glacier. Now what is the importance of this study? Up until now, we only had the satellite data with regards to how the glaciers are melting. This is the first time that we have studied the bottom part of the glacier. We have studied how glacier is melting from below and not just from the top. Moreover, this study will also help the scientists in developing better models to predict sea level rise and glacier melts in the upcoming years. Because up until now we just thought that it is only the glaciers which are above the sea level that are melting. But the melting is also happening from the below side as well. Okay. Now we come to the fourth topic, climate change and food security. The context is that the Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, he gave a statement in Parliament regarding the decline in the agricultural yields in the future upcoming years because of climate change. Now he said that according to the data produced by NICRA assessment, what is NICRA? National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture. So this is a project of Indian Council for Agricultural Research. So according to an assessment by this particular project, by the year 2100, the wheat production, it will decline by 6 to 25% depending upon the amount of global warming. The maize yield will also reduce and it will drastically reduce compared to wheat, 18 to 23%. When it comes to rice, in the areas where the rice crops, they are rain fed, this reduction will be about 2.5% by the year 2050. And in the areas where the rice is irrigated, where we have canal systems, there the reduction will be 7% by 2050, and by 2100 this reduction will be 10%. So by 2100 of wheat, 2100 maize, then for irrigated we have two values and here it is 2050. Okay, please remember the years. Do not mix them up. Do not say 2050 and wheat or 2100 and rice. Okay. When it comes to chickpea, by the year 2100, this is one crop that gives us hope, because there will be an increase in productivity, a drastic increase in productivity by 23 to 54%. So this is the data that our minister gave in the parliament. Now, how does this create a problem when it comes to food security? Now, you know that in the upcoming years, the production will reduce. However, when it comes to population, if we talk about India, in India, the population will keep on increasing and it will peak only by 2065 at 1.66 billion. This is according to data by World Population Review. Now already our total fertility rates, they have reduced. It has gone below 2 according to the latest NFHS data. However, because of the high base effect, our population will continue to rise, then it will start reducing. So we have more and more mouths to feed, but our production, it is decreasing. By 2050 itself, it will decrease. By 2100, it will drastically decrease. At a global level, we'll think that we can import the products, but even at the global level, the population is increasing and the productivity, it is reducing. When we talk about population, the world population is expected to reach 10.4 billion by 2080. Okay, so the population, the mouths that are there to feed, they are increasing. The amount of food we have, food production we have, it is reducing. Moreover, the climate change related vagaries, the climate change related weather effectivities, which will reduce the production, they will become more and more unpredictable in the upcoming years. Okay, so the predictability, what we have predicted right now, the final result, it will be very different from what we are predicting. There might be even more drastic reduction. Even chickpea production might reduce. So this is becoming very unpredictable. The way in which the climate is changing, in which the rain patterns are changing. For example, within the last 15-20 days, the North Indian regions, they have experienced both a cold wave and a hot wave. Okay, so you can see the impact of climate change that is already being seen, already being manifested in the country. Okay, so that is why a big question about food security, it is raised. So what is being done regarding that? Now, apart from our commitments in Paris Convention, we are trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which is going to be a general solution for global warming. What about agriculture specific? There are already researches going on for production of new varieties of crops, new varieties for particular area. For example, recently a new variety of wheat, it is introduced by ICAR. Now this variety of wheat, it is early sowing variety. It can be sown early and it can be harvested early. So what will happen? When there is intense heat which can destroy the crop, it will not have to experience that intense heat. It will get cultivated before that. Moreover, other early maturing varieties are also being produced. In northeast regions, special rice varieties are being produced. So there is a lot of research that is going on for producing of more climate resilient varieties of crops. Moreover, ICAR has established many facilities, many research facilities all across the country in the National Agricultural Research and Education Systems. So this is done all across the country. So what is happening? Depending upon the location, depending upon a variety of climate change conditions that can be simulated in those research facilities, we can come up with better technologies, better crop varieties, better ways of irrigation, so as to increase our food productivity or at least keep it stable. The ICAR, it is also conducting multiple training programs to educate the various stakeholders, not just the farmers, but also the industry people, the people who are selling the seeds, selling the other instruments, the fertilizers, various other inputs. They are training all these stakeholders regarding the various risks associated with climate change and how they need to adapt to all that. How can ICAR help in those adaptations? Moreover, you know that 2023, with the efforts of India, was declared the International Year of Millets. Now, India is the biggest producer of millets in the world. So, we are also trying to promote other crops that are more climate resilient already. Now, millets, they are very climate resilient crops. They do not get destroyed with very small changes in climate. So we are trying to promote the cultivation and the demand by promoting the consumption of these particular crops. Now about NICRA, the assessment which gave us the data that was presented in the parliament. Now NICRA, National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture, it is a flagship project of ICAR which started in the year 2011. Now there are three major focus areas of this program. One is identification of the most vulnerable districts and regions. So they have identified the regions which are most vulnerable with regards to climate change and reduction in food productivity. In fact, across 151 such districts, ICAR has already started location-specific technology demonstrations for these districts for climate resilient agriculture. The second is evolving crop varieties and management practices for adaptation and mitigation. This is also being done. We have multiple new varieties of crops that are coming up which are more resilient or more conducive to the conditions that are being created now. Then apart from crop culture, it will also assess other types of agriculture. It is assessing climate change impact on livestock, fisheries, poultry, and it is also identifying the various means through which there can be adaptation to this changing reality. Now here is a practice question for environment and ecology. I'll read out the question and you will have 5 seconds to answer it, okay? Identify the number of correct statements. Global warming will cause sea level rise only through melting of ice. Pangolins are traded both for their meat and their scales. The Thwaites Glacier is located in western Antarctica. Global warming will cause reduction in rice, wheat and chickpea production by 2100 in India. So these are the options. I'm giving you 5 seconds. Okay, so this is a wrong statement because we know that 50% of the global sea level rise is due to melting of ice, but other 50% is due to what? Thermal expansion. So this is wrong. This is correct. Yes, pangolins are traded for both the things. This is also correct. It is in the western part of Antarctica. However, this is wrong. It will not reduce the production of chickpea. It will reduce production of wheat and rice. So what is our correct answer? We have to identify the correct statements, right? So our correct answer is B. Now we come to the science and technology topics. The first topic is related to food fortification. Now, according to a report by ASHA, Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture, which is a group of various researchers, intellectuals and NGOs. According to this report, there exists a conflict of interest in the food fortification sector of the country. So what is this conflict of interest and what is food fortification? Let us take a look at it. So food fortification is nothing but addition of various micronutrients like various minerals and vitamins to the food item during their production process. Now, apart from that, there is also another type of fortification, that is point of use fortification. Now, point of use fortification includes addition of these micronutrients just before the person is consuming the food. This happens during the manufacturing process, during the processing part of the food. So there is also biofortification. Now, biofortification, it includes modifying the plants to make them more nutritious. Okay, so we are not talking about biofortification, we are just talking about industrial fortification that takes place during the production process when the crops, they are getting processed or getting packed for consumption. Then we have point of use fortification, which I have already explained. Now, what is the importance of this? How is it helpful? So this helps in addressing the issue of micronutrient deficiency, which is also known as hidden hunger. Now, many people, their bellies are full. They have eaten their food. However, their body is not getting the essential micronutrients it requires for its proper functioning. So even though their stomachs are full, their body is not getting the proper nutrition, and this is known as hidden hunger. So hidden hunger is responsible for various diet related non-communicable diseases. Like, you know, less amount of vitamin A in your diet can cause night blindness, less amount of vitamin B can cause beriberi, and so on, right? So to prevent these kind of diseases, non-communicable diseases, many countries, they undertake food fortification to increase the strength of their citizens. Now, large-scale food fortification programs, they first started in 1920s in Switzerland with iodizing the salt. Now, Switzerland, you know, it is a landlocked location, right? So the salt that they get, they do not have many sources of iodine, many sources of sea animals to eat, right? So that is why they started fortifying their salt with iodine to reduce the incidence of what? Goiter, which is caused due to reduced amount of iodine consumption. Now, as of now, 137 countries all across the world, they have fortification rules, mandatory fortification rules for at least one food product. And 68 countries across the world, they have such rules for at least 2 or more products. Okay, so that is the level at which the fortification is done. Now, what about India? In India, more than 70% of the population, they consume less than daily recommended levels of micronutrients. Now, this is across all stratas. The rich, the poor, the rural, the urban, the young, the old, for everyone, more than 70% of them, they are not consuming food properly. In fact, in case of very vulnerable sections of the society, this micronutrient deficiency, it is a very major problem. For example, vitamin D deficiency, it is there in 80% of India's population. However, in vulnerable sections like in children or in women, this deficiency is 93% for children and 91% of women. So you can see that there is variation amongst the vulnerable and non-vulnerable sectors, right, when it comes to micronutrient deficiencies. Now, because of that, India identified the problem very early, and just after our independence in 1950s itself, we started with the fortification of salt and our vegetable oils. Now, at the turn of the millennium, in 2000s, we started with fortification of other food products as well, especially rice, wheat and milk. In 2016, because these other food products, they were also being fortified now, so FSSAI, the Food Regulator of India, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, it came up with food fortification standards for rice, wheat, milk, double fortified salt and edible oil. Okay, so it came up with these rules. Double fortified salt is what? Fortified with iodine. Double fortified salt, it is fortified with iodine and iron. In the same year, this was a very important year for food fortification because the standards were introduced, and also in the same year there was establishment of FFRC. We'll study the details in the upcoming slides, which came up with the +F logo. Now when you see the a packet of any food product, you have the green dot, the red dot for vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Similarly, we have this +F logo. If that particular food item, it is fortified, then there will be a +F logo on it. Now, as of now, the government also mandates the use of fortified staples in many of its schemes like midday meal, ICDS, Integrated Child Development Services. Then we have PDS, Public Distribution System. Then we have Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. So majorly in these 4 schemes, the government has already mandated the use of fortified staples. So as of now, what is the status of food fortification? What is the level of acceptance? There was a study by an international agency, that is Dahlberg. Now according to this study, there are low levels of fortification in India even now. When it comes to business to consumer products like milk, salt and vegetable oil. In these 3 items, the fortification is only up to 20%. For wheat, it is only 3%. For rice, it is even less, 0.1 to 0.2%. Okay, so the levels of fortification even right now, they are quite less. Moreover, 40 to 60% of these fortified products, they are not even reaching the targeted audience, especially the most vulnerable sections of the society, that is the women and the children. So this is a very major amount. So what are the reasons for low level of fortifications in India? One is state level political will and interdepartmental coordination, which is lacking. Now central government, it is very active for this, while the state governments, they do not either have the resources or the level of coordination that is required in the various departments for improving the levels of food fortification in their distribution systems. Second is industry structure. Now in industries that are producing fortified salt or fortified vegetable oils, because they have been in existence since 1950s, 40 to 90% of salt and vegetable oil, it comes from the organized sector, from the big players. In the other 3 products, for which the fortification started only after 2000s, very small players are included. Now it is not very easy to disperse information regarding fortification standards and new technologies, new equipments amongst these small players. So that is why the levels of fortification, they are low, especially in the new items. Also, the equipment that is required for fortification, it is quite expensive. If we just talk about wheat and rice, for wheat, the equipment can be between 13 to 15 lakhs. For rice, it can range between 5 to 15 lakhs. So you can see the range, the high level of cost that is required to set up such industries. So that is why the smaller players which are involved in processing of wheat and rice, they are not able to establish such plants. Also, there is lack of awareness amongst the people. Now, there have been multiple programs by the government, multiple IEC activities by the government to increase the awareness of fortified food. FFRC, which is established in 2016, it is also given the mandate to increase the awareness amongst the people. However, many people, especially in the lower strata, in the rural strata of the society, they are not aware of fortified food. Salt, many of you might be aware, but you might not be aware of wheat, of milk, of rice. Okay, so even people like us, we are not properly aware of such foods. So that is another concern. Then it is about food aesthetics. Example, the double fortified salt, it causes certain amount of discoloration in the food. So many people, they do not prefer to use that kind of salt and they use the normal salt instead. So the aesthetics, the look, it changes the look of the food. That fortified food, it sometimes does that. So people do not prefer to eat it. Now we'll study about FFRC. So FFRC established in 2016. So it is a common platform for the various stakeholders to interact amongst each other regarding food fortification. What are the various stakeholders? We have the central ministries, we have the various industries that are involved in food fortification, and we also have the industries that are preparing the premixes that are used for fortifying the products. So its major roles include disbursement of food fortification related information amongst the people so that there is an increase in consumption of such products. Moreover, it also sensitizes the state governments regarding the benefits of food fortification, and it also helps them in adding fortified food in their safety net schemes. It also provides various types of technical supports to the small food manufacturers so that the level of fortification in the country can go up. It also has various training and capacity building programs. It involves itself in knowledge management programs for large scale food fortification in the country. Now, what does the ASHA report say? Why does it say that there is conflict of interest? Now we know that FFRC, it is the leading authority for food fortification in India. We have established that in the previous slide. It is responsible for disbursement of information, for promoting the states to adopt these fortified foods, to increase the technological capacities of the small scale players and have capacity building programs, right? Apart from this, it is also advising not just the state but also the central governments regarding the same. But the catch is that according to an RTI filed by this particular agency, it was found that FFRC, it is an industry-led organization. Industry-led organization, that means according to the report that it has a profit motive. And it is placed under the food regulator, which is responsible for safety of the consumers. So this has a safety motive, this has a profit motive. So this is the biggest point of concern. Now, increasing the levels of food fortification, it is economically benefiting the various industries which are leading this particular program, that is FFRC. So because they are getting economic benefits out of it, they'll definitely try to increase the levels of food fortification. However, the role of FSSAI is to have independent studies to identify whether or not particular thing is beneficial or not, right? So there is the conflict of interest. Can a body that works with profit motive be placed as a part of regulator? In fact, many of the independent researchers in FSSAI, they have asked the government against the fortification of rice with iron. They have said that that is not a good move. However, FFRC, it is promoting that. It is also increasing awareness amongst the people to consume that. Moreover, because since 2019, fortified rice is being sold through the PDS systems. It is being sent through the PDS systems. Now people who have diseases like sickle cell anemia, they are required not to consume high amounts of iron. Now these people, when they are getting their rice from the PDS system, they are given the fortified rice. This is not clear whether or not they have the choice to opt for normal rice. So they are consuming such rice. So that is again raising a big question. Moreover, since the introduction of this rice in the PDS system, according to the ASHA report, no independent impact studies have been done to identify whether or not this was beneficial. Okay. So according to the report, there is just a one-sided promotion of the fortified food. They are just promoting the fortified food. They are not talking about any of its side effect. It is being projected as a panacea, a one cure for all the micro deficiency problems in the country. So this is the biggest problem of that the ASHA report is pointing on. Now we move to the next topic, that is MPoxx. So the context here is, according to a latest bulletin released by the World Health Organization, more than 85,000 confirmed cases of MPoxx they have been reported from more than 110 countries since 1st January 2022. So this current outbreak of this particular disease, it is the worst that we have seen since we discovered the disease. So what is MPoxx? Earlier it was known as monkeypox. However, in order to be very neutral, the WHO changed its name to MPoxx. Now it is a zoonotic disease, that is, it is derived from animals. The hosts are the animals, and from animals they are transferred to humans. Now there is something called a host and there is something called a reservoir. Now reservoir is the animal which is the originator, the originating place of that particular disease. Host is all those animals that can carry that disease. Okay. So for example, for COVID, the reservoir was what? Bats. However, host, even humans were the host for COVID. Okay. So reservoir of this disease, it has not been properly identified as of now. However, many studies, they are saying that it is probably rodents. Now who are the hosts? The natural hosts, apart from the non-human primates which gave its previous name monkeypox, are some species of squirrels like tree squirrels, like rope squirrels, and various types of rats like dormice and pouch rat. Now the infection, it can occur both due to contact with either the infected animals or the infected humans through their bodily fluids. Moreover, studies have said that infection can also be transferred from a mother to the fetus through the placenta. Over the years, the size of the chain of transmission, it is increasing. That is the successive number of humans that can be infected by the disease in a single chain. For example, this is you, someone you know, then someone they know, then someone they know. You infect this person, then this and this. So this is a chain of transmission. So over the years, the size of the chain of transmission, it has increased from 6 to 9. And the reason why it is increasing according to experts is because the smallpox vaccination has stopped. And smallpox vaccination, it was responsible for increasing body's immunity for monkeypox as well. Because both the diseases, they are quite similar. The rashes produced, they are also quite similar in both the diseases. Okay, so this has been considered as one of the reasons why chain of transmission is increasing. Now the first human case of this disease was identified in the year 1970 in Democratic Republic of Congo. There was a child 9-month-old which started developing the symptoms. Now, since smallpox was eliminated in the country in 1968 itself, it was finally identified that the disease is not smallpox, it is another type of disease, and it was called monkeypox. Now, this disease, it is endemic to the rainforest areas of Africa, of Congo Basin. In Congo is a river over there, so mainly in the Congo Basin in Western and Central Africa. Now, up until 2003, that is from 1970s till 2003, this disease was confined in Africa itself. However, in 2003, first case outside the endemic area was identified in United States of America. Now, this person got the disease from his pet prairie dog, who was transferred from Ghana to USA, and this dog was traveling along with pouched rats and dormices, which are natural hosts of this disease. Now, since then, many outbreaks they have been reported all across the world, but mainly the outbreaks, they are a result of travel. If someone has traveled to the endemic countries and gone back, it was mostly those people who were getting this disease. Now, presently, what is happening? Why is WHO so concerned that in July 2022, they even declared monkeypox as a public health emergency of international concern? What is the big concern related to it? Because up until now, it was either identified only in Africa or only in people who had a travel history. Now, more and more cases are appearing in places which are not endemic. And even the people who have a travel history related to the infection, who have traveled and then they have caught the disease, they have not traveled to the endemic country. They have mainly traveled to North America or Europe. So, this is a big possibility that the natural hosts, their numbers are increasing in these areas outside the endemic countries as well. So that is why this is a big concern, and that is why it was declared as a public health emergency, and because of which WHO is meeting every 3 months and publishing a bulletin regarding this disease, regarding the amount of attention the disease requires and what the countries should do to prepare themselves for it. Now, what is the prevention and cure related to the disease? Now, the smallpox vaccine, it is considered to be effective. According to the studies, it is effective in 85% of the cases to prevent this particular disease. In fact, the health workers in the affected countries, they are also being given the smallpox vaccine, slightly modified smallpox vaccines, so that they are prevented from this infection when they are treating any person affected from it. Moreover, in 2019, a vaccine which was based on the modified attenuated vaccinia virus, it was also approved for MPoxx prevention. So for this vaccine to be effective, 2 doses of the vaccine were required. However, this vaccine, it is not very easily available. With regards to cure, we have an antiviral agent, tecovirimat. Now, this agent, it was supposed to be a cure for smallpox. However, recently, the European Medicines Agency, they have licensed this particular drug to be used as a cure for monkeypox. However, it should be used only under medical supervision. And also, this particular drug too, it is not very highly available. Now we move to the last topic for the day, that is quasi crystals. So the context here is that a new type of quasi crystal, it has been found in the Nebraska state of United States of America. Now up until 1982, there were only 2 types of materials that were known. Either it was a crystal or it was an amorphous solid. So in case of crystals, what is happening? The atoms, they are very nicely sequentially placed in particular patterns. These patterns were periodically repeating. For example, square, square, square. So they are in a pattern, in a periodically repeating pattern. In amorphous solids, what was happening? The atom placement, it was very random. There was no pattern at all. Then in 1982, a scientist, a material scientist, Dan Shetman, he discovered something called a quasi crystal. He was doing X-ray analysis of certain products, and he identified that some of the products, they have a proper pattern. For example, you can see over here. So these have certain patterns all across, but these patterns, they were not periodically repeating as seen in crystals, in pure crystals. So there are patterns, but the patterns are not repeating. So quasi crystals are nothing but crystal-like substances, except that there is no periodic repetition of patterns in the way in which the atoms are arranged. There are patterns, but these patterns, they are repeating, but they are not periodically repeating. They are randomly repeating. There are no random atoms, there are no periodically repeating patterns, but there are patterns which are randomly repeating. So what are their uses? Why are they important? Now these quasi crystals, they have very peculiar and novel characteristics with regards to electrical properties, mechanical and photonic properties. So that is why they have extensive use in manufacturing of various items of daily use, including LED lights, including hardened steel. Now steel hardened with quasi crystals is used to make many surgical instruments, many dental instruments, acupuncture pins. Then apart from that, these quasi crystals are also used to produce, apart from LEDs, we have non-stick cookware and so on. So there is a lot of use of these quasi crystals even outside the laboratories. Now why is this particular discovery so important? See, quasi crystals, they can be very easily created in the laboratories since the time they were found. However, finding natural quasi crystals, it is very rare. It is before this finding in Nebraska, there were only 2 incidents where it was found in nature. So they require extreme amount of high pressure and temperature shocks for their production. So that is why up until now in only 2 places it was found, in Russia after a meteoroid it crashed over there, and in Mexico after a nuclear explosion, a test nuclear explosion. Okay, so quasi crystals, they require very extreme temperature and pressure shocks for their creation, and only in extreme cases are they found. In Nebraska, according to experts who found the quasi crystals, it is said that it was formed due to lightning strikes, which created extreme pressure and temperature shocks. Also, up until now, the lab generated quasi crystals or even the natural quasi crystals, they only had 5-fold symmetry. Now what is 5-fold symmetry? They'll repeat their pattern when they are rotated by an angle of 72 degrees. Now the squares, they have 4-fold symmetry. The equilateral triangles, they have 3-fold symmetry. When you rotate a square on a particular axis by 90 degree, it will overlap itself, right? So up until now, all the quasi crystals that were found, they were of 5-fold symmetry. This is the first time that we have found a 12-fold symmetry or dodecagonal quasi crystal that can be superimposed upon itself if rotated by 360 degree by 12 degrees, that is 30 degree. So a part of it can be superimposed over it when rotated by 30 degree. 5-fold, it rotates by 72 degree. 4-fold or square, rotation by 90 degree. So these are the reasons why this particular discovery is so important. Okay. So now a practice question for science part. Which of the following statements are incorrect? Food fortification can only be done for solid food items. Monkeys are the natural hosts of the disease. Quasi of the disease, that is MPoxx. Quasi crystals have random placement of atoms. So which of these are incorrect? You have 5 seconds. So this is wrong because we know that food fortification is also being done for what? Milk. So this is wrong. This is also wrong. We do not, monkeys are not just the only natural hosts for this particular disease. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is wrong. They are not the only natural host. Then this is, so sorry, this is correct. Sorry, this is correct. Yes, monkeys are a natural host of MPoxx. And this is wrong. There is not extreme random placement of atoms. There are patterns, but these patterns are randomly placed. So the incorrect statements are 1 and 3. I'm so sorry, the options are incorrect. The incorrect statements are 1 and 3. So with that, we come to an end to the Science and Environment Fortnightly for this fortnight. We'll meet again in the next fortnight. We'll meet next on 12th March. So until then, have a very good fortnight and I'll see you again.